Hello, Internet, and thank you for joining me today. Life is one big kick to the cunt. You see, I've had this series of videos planned since, I don't know, about August. And it seems ever since I actually uploaded my first video on weapons, things have just gone not great for me this month when it comes to this channel. Alright, let me just drop all pretenses here and explain my current predicament. You see, I had it planned out that every Monday in the month of October, I was going to do something that I would call Bad Movie Monday. And I was going to have really crappy movies that, either most people haven't seen or most people have never even heard of, but I was going to put them on blast and put them up on display for people to, poke fun at and laugh at. And the script for the video that I was going to upload on the 6th, which is when this one should be going live. But yeah, the script for that original video is in another town currently. So I thought to myself, okay, I can let myself down, let the 18 people that are subscribed to me down, or I could just open up the mic and bitch about the last movie that really pissed me off. Unfortunately for everyone involved, that movie was called Alma and the Wolf. Strap in, kids, this one's not going to be as fun. In the past, I have been accused of sounding very arrogant when I speak on something I feel like I'm knowledgeable about, and I have worn that label with the confidence of a 20-year-old that knows that they can get hard all the way to the tip. However, after watching this movie, I feel like I have to relinquish the pretentious panties over to them because I'm at least aware that I'm up my own ass. It's warm and slightly comfortable. I've got things to a nice circumference now. But this self-awareness does not transfer over to the filmmakers of this piece of shit, nor does it transfer to any of the other reviewers on YouTube that I've heard talk about it. See, after I finished it and the credits were rolling, I had a righteous anger built up, and I needed to vent that immediately, so I took to YouTube to try to find a review of it that was ripping it apart. No such luck. Yeah, no. All I found was a bunch of people talking about, oh my god, Ethan Embry, he's so cool, using Empire Records. Yeah, fucking miss me with all of that. This film was garbage and he was actually really bad in it. But I'm actually going to do something a little bit different in this review because I don't have a script for this. I have no idea where I'm going with this. I'm just going with the flow. Just kind of opened up the mic and I'm just free flowing here. So let me try to go beat by beat as best as I can remember, and we'll try to tackle as much of this shit as we can. Also, none of these visuals are going to line up because I'm a hack and I'm lazy and it's late. So the movie starts with Alma walking down a country road carrying her dead-ass dog. She gets hauled in by a police officer named Ren, who is our main character for the movie, or at least who I think is supposed to be the main character. The title apparently says differently. Anyway, Alma and Ren are talking about the dead dog, and Alma claims that a wolf came out of nowhere and killed the dog. She's very distraught about this and kind of shitty towards Ren and the idea of police officers in general, but then she makes Ren swear to find the wolf that killed her dog and everything's hunky-dory. We smash cut to a scene where Ren, drunk on the job, is chasing away some teenagers that are drinking under the bleachers of a baseball game that's going on. And as it turns out, drunk Ren's son is the star pitcher for the local baseball team, and we are expecting him to go to college soon. But apparently Ren is divorced from his ex-wife, who apparently married their high school principal. What the fuck? Yeah, two things you're going to notice about this review that are fairly different from my other reviews. First of all, I'm doing an actual plot breakdown, and also I'm spoiling the shit out of this. And it does become this weirdly relevant plot point that Ren basically lives in his past, like he's a guy that never got over high school. So it's totally relevant that his ex-wife is banging their high school principal. Even though there's like a 30-year age gap, we're supposed to think Ren's the asshole for pointing this out for some reason. I don't know why the movie wants us to think that, but they do. Some people have tried to gaslight me that certain things that I think movies are trying to tell me aren't really trying to tell me anything. But when there are at least 3 separate scenes where Ren is saying something shitty to his ex-wife in regards to her husband's age, I'm inclined to think that they want me to believe that Ren is the asshole here, but it is very weird that she is banging her high school principal. Moving on, though, the next day, Alma shows up to the police station again to follow up with Ren to see if he's caught the wolf yet, which obviously he was getting drunk in a ballpark, so that didn't happen. But this attractive Asian woman still asks this balding, middle-aged man out for some fucking reason. And it becomes clear later why this scene seems so out of place and why the whole first, 3/4 of the movie seems out of place, but we'll get to that. For now, though, we fast forward from that scene to a scene where Ren's son is coming over to spend a weekend with him, but he is conflicted because he has a date with a hot Asian named Alma. Did I mention that she was hot and Asian? So yeah, he ditches the kid and goes on the date. They end up banging, and he spends the night at her place, only to discover the next morning that his son, Jack, has gone missing. This is the catalyst for every other scene in the movie. You see, Ren is hell-bent on discovering what is actually going on in this town, because everything seems just slightly off. This is mostly conveyed to us through these kind of fever dream scenarios where he sees these goat people hanging out with a werewolf. That's actually pretty impressively animated for a low-budget film. But the fact that they only show him in very short bursts and most of the time he's just kind of standing around or just doing a little jig, it becomes a very upsetting sequence. And it only becomes more upsetting the more they do it. There's about 4 sequences where that happens, and each one is more goofy than the last. It's only made more goofy whenever you hear the wolf actually speak, because he has the world's worst voice changer. I had to turn subtitles on just so that I could understand the story he was trying to tell. And I was even more pissed off when I turned those subtitles on because the story that they are telling is absolute shit. Alright, so everything that I've explained up to this point is about the first 20 to 30 minutes of the movie. By the time Jack leaves the story, like he's missing or whatever, we're a good quarter of the way into the movie. And the next about half of the movies, the next 50% of the movie, is dedicated to those sequences with the wolf, but also to exploring Ren and Alma's relationship while they were in high school, basically. And I have to say basically, because there's a bunch of meandering shit that doesn't mean anything, and the amount of times that Ren just wakes up is staggering. But before I get to the justification for that, let me just kind of finish up with the plot here. So we go through this middle half of the movie, right? And we're getting all of this information where, Ren is going out into the woods, trying to find Jack, trying to figure out where he is. He thinks he's at the lake, but then people are trying to get him to look elsewhere, and he talks to Alma about his childhood and whatnot, and we're supposed to feel very, very sad for him that he never went anywhere in life. And then all of a sudden, I don't remember really what sparks this, but there's a huge chase scene, okay, where we're being chased by goat demon people, and they're turning other people into goat demons, and we end up in the police station where there's this big final standoff, and Ren has to escape back into the woods to confront the wolf. And once he does, the big twist happens. And that twist is, it was all a dream. Yeah, I'm not shitting you. They pull the whole, it was actually him that killed Jack, and he's just been running around for the past 3 days shtick. which I actually called this twist like 20 minutes in. Like, as soon as he went missing, I was like, oh, hey, is this all just a dream and he actually killed him? And I don't even think that would have been the worst thing in the world, but the way that they do it... Okay, I'm just going to have to finish this up really quick and get into my analysis. So once it's revealed that Jack's the one that killed him, we get a very long sequence of how he did it and then what he's been doing the past several days, basically revealing to us that hasn't been a cop, that he hasn't actually been looking for Jack. He's basically just been stumbling around town being a complete dick to everyone. And then the movie ends with him getting arrested for the murder of Jack. And Jack's body's in his house, and it's been there the whole time. And they want it to be ambiguous what happens to him. They want it to seem like you can interpret something else from this film. However, it is very unambiguous to me that they just shot this dude. Like, he goes suicide by cop, and the movie ends, credits roll. Alright. Plot synopsis done. Let's spank this piggy. The biggest problem that I have with this film is they don't understand what an unreliable narrator is. If you look at the main examples of an unreliable narrator, you'll get stuff like Fight Club and American Psycho and Secret Window. See, all of these other movies and books and whatnot that have unreliable narrators, they have a tendency to bring us into that character's world, make us sympathize with them above everyone else. And they're very good at that, and that's really what they should be doing. The problem is that this film does two things wrong. The first one is we don't actually get to sympathize with Ren at all. We never get a scene where we actually feel him being a good person. He's always an asshole to everyone. Like, he's never really all that great, at least. And the second thing that they do wrong is they just flat out fucking lie to us. In all of the other examples that I listed, whenever something is not true, it's not true between them and their delusion. So, for example, in Fight Club, everything that Tyler Durden does is something that the narrator is doing. We just don't get to see it from that third party, because he is envisioning himself as Tyler Durden. But it's perfectly logical to see where he would separate himself from that persona. Now, in Ren's case, we see him interacting with basically everyone in town, but none of those interactions ever actually happen. So it's just a fucking lie. And more than a lie, it's really just a waste of time. Because, you see, with all these other stories that I can think of that have this unreliable narrator, you're at least learning about the narrator themselves, right? Or at least their idealized version of themselves. You don't get that with Ren. Ren is just the same asshole you see, just without any prestige or any redeeming qualities. And we don't even get any side characters, really, because everyone is framed incorrectly by Ren, but still exists in the town itself. Like, in the last third of the movie, we find out that actually the dynamic between Alma and Ren is flip-flopped. Ren is the one that's a drunk asshole, and Alma is actually a cop. Which means that we have learned absolutely nothing about this character. Like, how did she become a cop? What did she do as a cop? Did she like being a cop? We know none of this because all of it was actually just a lie. Another thing that was just a lie was all of the symbolism in this movie. Because you see, the wolf is supposed to be a metaphor for the inner demon inside of Ren, and baseball is supposed to be this metaphor for the bond between a father and a son. But no time or dialogue is really invested in exploring these topics until it is in the least subtle way possible. I'm talking bamboo shoots under the fingernails levels of subtlety here. Listen, American Psycho is not subtle at all with its commentary, but Patrick Bateman as a character is so interesting, and there is so much talked about with the metaphors that it uses that you can't help but appreciate the artistry on display with all of the little hints that it gives you. This thing, however, will forget all about its theming and symbolism until it's ready to smack you in the face with it. And so it doesn't make you feel anything beyond just a numb sensation of, oh yeah, that happened. An example of this is after I sat and thought about this movie, stewing in my anger for about 3 days, it hit me that all of the times that Ren will suddenly wake up, it's because he's an alcoholic and he's been drinking through the whole movie. And every time he just suddenly wakes up and resolves whatever situation he was in, it's because it didn't actually happen. It was just him being drunk and thinking he was doing something or hallucinating or what the fuck ever. And if the main core of the movie was built around him being an alcoholic, then I wouldn't have as much to bitch about here, but it wasn't. It was just a convenient way to get the story from point A to point B in as few shots as possible. Alright, before I wrap up here, let me dole out a couple of compliments because this movie is not wholly without merit. The head of the wolf costume is actually pretty neat to look at, and the motion that they got out of the mouth was actually pretty impressive. In addition to that, most of the cinematography is actually pretty inspired, and they got a couple of shots that I thought were genuinely beautiful with some natural lighting and the woods. Also, Lee Jun-lee is the best part of the movie by far. I really actually enjoyed every moment she was on screen, and I thought that she did a fantastic job in this. I really want to see what else she's worked on. Other than that, I have to say that this was a thoroughly unenjoyable movie, and I will not be looking up anything else this director has done. And that's really all I have to say about that today. So if you like this video, show me by leaving a like. I am doing more episodes kind of like this, but with more structure. Tune in next week for another Bad Movie Monday, but stay tuned till Fridays where I review an actual good movie. But until then, sayonara, bitches.